Today we're diving into The Accountant, 2016, a movie about a man born with a rare condition. Even though he struggles with everyday social interactions, his incredible intelligence and unique abilities make him far more capable than the average person. Trust me, this one's packed with action, mystery, and some seriously clever twists. So let's jump right in. The story opens inside a bar. A man cautiously makes his way through the building with a pistol in his hand while a brutal massacre is already underway. He plans to arrest the mysterious shooter, but before he can react, the killer suddenly appears behind him and presses a gun against his head. Now let's rewind several years. We meet a young boy named Christian Wolff, or Chris, and his younger brother Braxton. Chris has been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, a developmental condition that affects the way he communicates, interacts with others, and processes the world around him. Although Chris possesses an exceptionally high IQ, his behavior is very different from that of his brother and other children his age. Because of his condition, his parents take him to a specialized treatment center for children with developmental disorders. The doctors explain that Chris constantly needs sensory stimulation to stay calm and focused. One example is his habit of repeatedly reciting Solomon Grundy whenever something feels out of place, like when a puzzle piece goes missing. He won't stop until the missing piece is found and everything is back in order. Years later, Chris runs a small accounting firm called ZZZ Accounting. Thanks to his extraordinary talent for mathematics and finance, he has become an outstanding accountant, helping small business owners with their financial problems. His clients deeply appreciate the precision and honesty he brings to every job. Meanwhile, at the U.S. Treasury Department, we're introduced to Ray King, the director of the Financial Crimes Enforcement Division, and Maribeth Medina, a former police analyst who's applying for a position on his team. During their meeting, Medina almost walks away after King brings up parts of her troubled past.
Is that a 9mm?
45.
You better sit your ass back down in that chair, young lady.
But King isn't trying to embarrass her. He wants to know whether she's ready for the biggest case of her career. For quite some time, King has been investigating a mysterious figure known only as the Accountant. Despite the harmless nickname, this person secretly works as a forensic accountant for some of the world's most dangerous criminal organizations. King assigns Medina one mission and one mission only: find the accountant. What Medina doesn't realize is that the mysterious accountant they're hunting is actually Chris himself. Chris lives an extremely disciplined life. Every meal follows the same routine, and every part of his day is carefully organized. To keep his sensory system under control, he repeatedly strikes his legs with a wooden rod while blasting loud music and surrounding himself with flashing strobe lights. It's a ritual he's relied on since childhood to manage the overwhelming sensations caused by his condition. As the music echoes through the room, Chris begins remembering his parents. Their constant disagreements over how to raise him eventually destroyed their marriage, leading to a painful divorce that changed his life forever. Chris's mother believes he should live in a specialized care facility where professionals can help him manage his condition. But his father, a military officer, has a very different idea. He believes the only way Chris can survive in the real world is by becoming both mentally and physically stronger. So from a young age, he puts both of his sons through intense military-style training. The next day, while continuing the routines that keep his mind sharp, Chris visits the home of the craftsman couple he helped earlier. But accounting isn't his only talent. When they're suddenly threatened, Chris reveals that he's also an incredibly skilled marksman, leaving the couple completely stunned.
It's like somebody's seen too many westerns.
Afterward, Chris returns to what looks like an ordinary rundown office building. From the outside, there's nothing special about it. But inside is a completely different story. Hidden within the building is a large motorhome packed with everything he needs for his secret life. There are racks of weapons, hidden compartments, stacks of cash, gold bars, and even an original Jackson Pollock painting worth millions of dollars. That painting isn't just an expensive piece of art. Its chaotic style has become an important part of Chris's daily routine, helping him maintain emotional balance and cope with his sensory needs. Looking at it brings back memories of an earlier chapter of his life. Years ago, Chris spent time in a maximum security military prison. While there, he became close friends with an inmate named Francis Silverbrook, who had been imprisoned for embezzling hundreds of millions of dollars. Francis taught Chris that numbers never lie. He encouraged him to focus only on the financial records and ignore the moral character of the people behind them. That advice eventually led Chris to become one of the world's most sought-after forensic accountants. It's also revealed that the harsh military training his father forced on him turned Chris into an elite fighter with exceptional combat skills. However, his military career came to an abrupt end after a tragic incident. Following his mother's death, a confrontation led to his father's death as well. Chris was arrested and eventually sent to prison after being accused of assault and violating military regulations. Back in the present, Chris receives a call from his mysterious handler, Justine. She warns him that someone has started looking into his activities. To avoid attracting even more attention, she advises him to take on a legitimate client instead of working for criminal organizations. That client is Living Robotics, a cutting-edge robotics company whose financial records have become a complete mess. The company believes someone has been secretly stealing millions through its accounting system. Chris agrees to investigate. His first step is meeting with the company's senior staff, including finance manager Rita Blackburn and chief accountant Ed Chilton, who's been handling the company's books for the past 15 years and has become the prime suspect. After speaking with both of them, Chris meets the company's CEO, Lamar Blackburn. During their brief conversation, Chris confirms that he'll begin his investigation first thing the following morning. Meanwhile, at the U.S. Treasury Department, Medina begins digging into the many identities the accountant has used over the years. She soon notices an interesting pattern. Every alias belongs to a famous mathematician or scientist, making it clear that whoever this man is, he's obsessed with numbers. Hoping to uncover his real identity, Medina has the FBI analyze security camera footage. Before long, they find a match linking the accountant to the massacre of 9 gang members from the opening scene. The FBI also recovers an audio recording from the incident. Believing it's their strongest lead, Medina has the recording cleaned up and enhanced. After filtering out the background noise, they finally make out a single phrase. It's the nursery rhyme Solomon Grundy. They still don't know what it means or who they're looking for, but it's the first real clue they've found. The next morning, Chris arrives at Living Robotics and begins reviewing the company's financial records alongside the internal accountant, Dana Cummings, who's completely exhausted after struggling with the company's unbelievably complicated books. After a short breakfast break, Chris returns to the conference room and gets to work. This is where we finally see just how extraordinary he really is. With incredible focus and an almost superhuman memory, Chris tears through 15 years of financial records in a single night. He covers every glass wall in the room with calculations and handwritten notes. Dana can hardly believe what she's seeing. It took her months to organize just 1 year's worth of records, yet Chris finishes 15 years overnight. Even more impressive, he uncovers a massive financial discrepancy involving millions of dollars. Someone has been stealing from the company for years. The only problem is that Chris still doesn't know who the thief is. Rita immediately asks him to prepare a full report. That same night, Ed Chilton receives an unexpected visitor. A mysterious assassin arrives at his house and gives him a horrifying choice. If Ed wants his wife to stay alive, he must inject himself with a fatal overdose of insulin. With no way to fight back and his wife's life on the line, Ed has no choice but to obey. The following morning, Chris returns to the conference room expecting to continue his investigation. Instead, he's met with a shocking surprise. Lamar orders the staff to erase every note Chris wrote on the glass walls. He pays Chris for his work and immediately ends the investigation. Lamar explains that there's no reason to continue because Ed, the company's chief accountant, was found dead the previous night. The sudden decision raises serious questions. Dana doesn't understand why the investigation is being shut down just as they were getting answers. Chris is equally frustrated. He hates leaving a job unfinished, and being forced to stop before uncovering the truth leaves him deeply unsettled. For the first time in a long while, even his usual routines can't calm him down. The loud music, the sensory exercises, and every coping technique he's relied on for years all fail to ease his growing anxiety. Unable to calm his mind, Chris decides to clear his head the only way he knows how, by practicing his shooting. After setting up 3 watermelons as targets, he begins firing with flawless accuracy. As he trains, memories of his childhood come rushing back. Years earlier, his father had taken Chris and Braxton with him on military assignments overseas. He didn't just train them mentally, he pushed them through brutal physical exercises, determined to make both of his sons strong enough to survive any situation. At that same moment, back at the craftsman's house, 2 armed men arrive with a mission. They've been sent by the same mysterious assassin to eliminate Chris. Just like they did with Ed, the hitmen threaten the elderly couple, hoping to lure Chris into the house. But their plan quickly falls apart.
Again, louder.
Realizing something is wrong, one of the attackers grabs the couple as hostages and tries to escape in a car. Before he can get away, Chris catches up, yanks him out of the vehicle, and takes him down using nothing but his belt. The fight is over in seconds. With the attacker barely hanging on, Chris demands to know who hired him. The man admits he was simply paid to kill both Chris and Dana. He has no idea why, and he never even met the person who gave the order. Realizing Dana is now in danger, Chris races straight to her apartment. On the way, he calls Justine and tells her to erase every trace of his identity and secure all the information connected to him. When Chris arrives, he finds several armed men breaking into Dana's apartment. He eliminates them before they can reach her and gets Dana out safely. Chris then takes her back to his secret headquarters to collect weapons, cash, and other supplies before disappearing again. Curious about the man who's been protecting her, Dana secretly slips inside his hidden motorhome. She's stunned by what she finds. Inside are military-grade weapons, stacks of cash, gold bars, priceless artwork, and enough equipment to support an entire covert operation. She finally asks Chris what he really does for a living. Chris refuses to answer. He simply tells her that the less she knows, the safer she'll be, and urges her to leave with him immediately. Meanwhile, Medina receives new information about the phrase Solomon Grundy. Investigators discover that it's an Old English nursery rhyme dating back to the 18th century. Based on the way it was recited in the recording, experts believe the speaker was under severe emotional stress or suffering from deep psychological trauma. They also suggest the person may have a rare neurological condition. Later that night, Medina narrows her search by looking for accountants earning more than $1 million a year. That kind of income is almost impossible for a legitimate accountant, making the list incredibly small. With help from an FBI analyst, she uncovers one name that immediately stands out: Christian Wolff. She also discovers that Chris deliberately spread his income across 3 different companies to hide the true amount he was earning. Without wasting a second, Medina reports everything to Ray King. Although King doesn't seem completely convinced at first, Medina argues that Chris's financial records are nothing more than a carefully constructed cover. Her reasoning is solid enough that King agrees to continue the investigation. Chris and Dana check into a luxury hotel, believing it's the safest place they can hide for the time being. As they spend the evening talking, Dana learns more about Chris's past, while Chris begins connecting the pieces of the case. That's when he realizes Rita, the company's finance manager, could also be a target. Without wasting any time, he heads to her house. But he's already too late. The assassin has beaten him there and is just leaving as Chris arrives. The killer notices Chris following him and escapes after exchanging several gunshots. When Chris finally gets inside the house, he discovers Rita lying dead. Back at the hotel, Dana is asleep, completely unaware of what has happened. Knowing that staying with him will only put her in greater danger, Chris quietly writes her a goodbye letter before leaving without saying a word. At the same time, Ray King and an FBI team arrive at Chris's home with a warrant to arrest him. Inside, they find a handgun, a dented aluminum thermos, and something even more surprising. The house is protected like a military fortress. Security cameras cover every angle, and hidden weapons are strategically placed throughout the property. This isn't the home of an ordinary accountant. Seeing all of this, Medina becomes even more convinced that Chris is the mysterious accountant they've been chasing. King sends the rest of the team away to prepare their report while he and Medina stay behind, waiting for Chris to return. While they wait, King finally reveals the truth about his connection to the accountant. 10 years earlier, during the massacre in the bar, King was actually the man who had a gun pointed at his head. After Chris killed the 9 gang members, King believed he would become the 10th victim. Instead, Chris unexpectedly spared his life. Years later, when King was thinking about retiring from the Treasury Department, he received a call from Justine. She explained that Chris wanted to work with him. From that point on, Chris secretly fed King information about major criminal organizations, allowing him to solve case after case. Those successes quickly earned King promotions until he eventually became the director of the Treasury's Financial Crimes Division. But that's not the only surprise. King also knew Francis Silverbrook, the legendary accountant who once handled the finances of powerful criminal organizations. After his arrest, Francis agreed to become a government informant and expose many of his former clients. Unfortunately, once he entered the witness protection program, the government could no longer keep him safe. The gangsters eventually tracked him down and murdered him. At the time, Chris was still in military prison. He escaped by overpowering a guard with the same aluminum thermos the FBI found in his house. It becomes clear that the bar massacre 10 years earlier wasn't random. Chris was taking revenge for Francis, the man who had become both his mentor and a father figure. Despite working as a forensic accountant for dangerous criminal organizations, Chris has never been completely on the wrong side of the law. He has secretly helped King bring countless criminals to justice for years. In fact, Medina's entire investigation is part of Chris's larger plan to expose whoever is behind the massive fraud at Living Robotics. Meanwhile, somewhere else, the assassin is preparing security at a wealthy client's estate. At last, the truth is revealed. The assassin has been working for Lamar Blackburn all along. Lamar ordered him to eliminate anyone who got close to uncovering the company's financial fraud, including Ed, Rita, and now Chris. Now that Chris has uncovered too much, Lamar decides it's time to eliminate him for good. But Chris strikes first. From a distance, he carefully picks off the guards outside the estate with incredible precision before quietly making his way inside. Once he's in, he tears through Lamar's security team one by one. Even after taking a bullet to the leg, Chris refuses to slow down. If anything, the injury only makes him more determined, overwhelming the assassin and his men. While monitoring the security cameras, the assassin suddenly hears Chris quietly reciting the Solomon Grundy rhyme, the same phrase Chris uses to stay mentally focused. Curious, he makes a shocking decision. He kills one of his own men just so he can face Chris alone. Then comes the biggest twist of the movie. The assassin isn't a stranger at all. He's Braxton, Chris's younger brother. After spending years apart, Braxton didn't choose a better path. Instead, he became one of the world's deadliest contract killers, abandoning any sense of morality or compassion. The two brothers finally confront each other. Braxton still blames Chris for their father's death, and years of resentment explode into an emotional argument. Chris finally tells him the truth about what really happened. He apologizes for failing to protect his younger brother and promises that once everything is over, they'll have a chance to rebuild their relationship. After a brief but intense fight, Lamar steps out, desperately trying to justify everything he's done. He insists he had no choice and attempts to shift the blame. Chris isn't convinced. His decision has already been made. Without hesitation, he pulls the trigger. The next day, the FBI holds a press conference announcing that the Living Robotics fraud case has officially been solved. Medina credits the success of the investigation to Ray King, whose guidance helped her uncover the truth. She also acknowledges two mysterious people who made the entire operation possible, Chris and someone known only as Justine. So who is Justine? The answer takes us back to the beginning of the movie. She's the young autistic girl from the treatment center where Chris was taken as a child. Thanks to the financial support Chris has provided over the years, Justine has grown into the brilliant intelligence coordinator working behind the scenes. Using advanced computers and communication technology, she manages Chris's identities, gathers information, and quietly supports every mission he undertakes. Meanwhile, Dana receives a package from Chris. Inside is a dogs playing poker painting, referencing a game she once enjoyed. But when she opens it, she discovers the real gift hidden behind it. Chris has given her the priceless Jackson Pollock painting from his own collection, leaving her with one final reminder of the man who changed her life. As for Chris, he disappears once again. Driving away in his armored motorhome, he sets off toward his next mission, continuing his secret life as the legendary accountant. And that's where the movie ends. An incredibly clever ending that perfectly sets up the legend of the accountant.